Hello there, and welcome back to War Thunder. And today is a video in a little bit of a response to my B-17 video where I complained a little bit about allied teams. Now, a lot of comments were then, well, I don't know what you can do, and can you show us what you can do with which weapon system, ground attackers specifically, etc. So we are going right into a huge topic, ground striking. And this will be probably one of many videos that I will do on this topic, and I did so in the past as well. But to refresh some of the stuff, because Gaijin is obviously very often changing game mechanics and also shifting around the maps, new maps, old maps, getting reworked, and obviously sometimes the ground units are changing as well. So I only show you in this battle, or in this video, only one battle in the American AD-4 Skyraider being equipped with the 56 rockets, the Mighty Mouse. And they are really great, they have great trajectory, relatively easy to aim. I will come back to this in just a moment. So let's begin with the basic rules, the game mechanics, and we are beginning with the spotting mechanic. Yes, there is something like a spotting mechanic in RRB. That is a thing, and it works the following in a nutshell from the point of a ground attacker. The lower you are, the less likely it is that you get red boxed, aka the distance in which an enemy can detect you is severely reduced. In particular, if that enemy is then above you, that distance goes even lower. And so it can happen that you spot a lot of enemies under 10 kilometers away and they don't see you. I once heard that it is 400 meters and lower, and then that chance is severely reduced. But tickle the tips of trees with your plane basically, and you are as safe as possible. If you then use something like riverbeds or hills to further obstruct the line of sight to the enemy and vice versa, that's just the best thing that can happen. That Tu-2 was not far away, under 5 kilometers. He didn't spot me, and so does his team have no idea that I am in the vicinity of their ground units. And I also go the long route and take my time. Very often you're the first on the ground units, but the enemy knows exactly where you are, you're spotted, and there is nowhere for you to run. And here I try now my best with the rockets to go after the light pillboxes, which are the main objective. So this is now the spotting mechanic. General tactics are you need to stay alive as long as possible. If you manage to survive the beginning, which sounds very easy and it's very easy to write down on paper, then you're able to probably make the difference at the end of the game, because very often the last enemy is running or the points are close, and then to have a ground attack with a good payload is really nice to have for each side. So which ground units can I engage with which weapon system? What is the most efficient way? What pays off the most? And in fact, it is very nice that we are in fact in an American ground attacker, because the Americans have many benefits. They have 50 cals, they have 20 millimeters that hit hard, they have a lot of payload, bombs, rockets, and rockets, with huge quantities of them. And on top of this, it's not just one or two planes per tier. No, nearly every American plane has a certain aspect of effective ground pounding capabilities. And again, I will show you just a very small spectrum, or a very small part of the entire ground pounding possibility spectrum in this video, and follow-up videos where I then have a bit better footage, etc., where I then have the time to edit this, might be just coming later. But now you have to believe me, and if you don't believe me, well, and you can then test the stuff that I just said in a custom battle with a friend, get a little bit practice in. So now this Tu-2 is so low at my altitude actually that undoubtedly he has now spotted me, and the AAA has damaged my engine. I finished off the pillboxes in that vicinity, and now I'm going back to base, trying to fix my engine, repair, rearm, refuel, and just repeat. So we have now a little bit of points advantage, and that is the next point. Which kind of targets should you engage? Well, it depends obviously on the map, and it also depends on from which side you're coming. Again, in this battle, in this map, Berlin, summer 1945, which is also alternative history, my goals are the blinking ground units. And they cost, if you destroy them, the enemy team 100 tickets. And that is an efficient way to run down their tickets completely without destroying every single last enemy. There you can see in the bottom left of the screen that 23 ground targets are there left to be destroyed and 28 from our team. I think it began with 30 per side. So very often I see the mistake of American teams not just spawning too many ground attackers and bombers so that the fighters are outnumbered. So they're also prioritizing the wrong targets, or they're going after the wrong targets. I know that for a beginner it seems unlikely that a 20mm gun or a 50 cal heavy machine gun in fact is able to destroy a light bunker, aka a light pillbox. But in fact, the Americans have the benefit of the doubt in terms of game mechanics, and so they are fully capable of doing this. So again, the Americans have here the most potential in the tech tree throughout all the nations. And it is very tempting to go after soft targets such as armored cars, AAA artillery, howitzers, and not to go after the more difficult to destroy targets such as moving tanks or pillboxes, light pillboxes, etc. But the matter of the fact is, the more difficult a target is there to be destroyed, the more rewarding it is. So you get much more civil lines and much more RP per destroyed light pillbox compared to if you try to rack up RT and AAA positions. Now with AAA positions, as you can see, it forced me to go back to base, and yes, so I understand that you go for them initially and then take your time in racking up the light pillboxes. But you should eventually go after the light pillboxes. So the question is, with which weapon systems can you destroy which target? Well, let's begin with the heaviest ground unit, and that is the pillbox, the normal pillbox. And it is best to either use very big rockets, Tiny Tims for example, or in fact bombs. And you should go after them from the very beginning. They are the most rewarding, they are most difficult to destroy them. And if you then get rid of your heavy bombs, your plane is then easier to maneuver, easier to steer, and well, you just lost 1,000 or 2,000 pounds of additional weight. So it is very simple. Then I would use the rockets. I would use the rockets versus the light pillboxes, even though you can also destroy them with the 50 cals or also the 20mm in this case, because then as well you still have 20mm left to engage maybe an enemy fighter or an enemy attacker or bomber that are RTBing, so returning to their own base. Maybe they are damaged and maybe they force themselves into a head-on, and so at least you have something to shoot back. If you waste your 20mm from the very start, you have nothing to shoot back effectively at an enemy plane. Yes, I know the meme kills with bombs or rockets are hilarious, but not that likely. That's why they are so hilarious. So this went now a bit wild. So what are the preferred belts for the 50 cals and the 20mm for the American planes respectively? Well, for the 50 cals, it is the ground target belt. Simple as that. They're also hilariously effective, in my opinion, versus aircraft. That's effectively also what I use even in the jets, in a jet fight. They have a little bit of tracer, but not completely tracer. They have armor piercing, incendiary, etc. So they will deal with fighters and with bombers and with ground targets alike. For the 20mm, it is a little bit of a surprise because I still use the default belts because they are equally efficient versus air targets or like bombers, attackers, fighters, as well as, well, light pillboxes and light ground units. So I came here a little bit off topic. So let's quickly recap everything that I just said and bring it in the following order. What is there to do? Well, first of all, if you have a good map with the appropriate targets, equip also the right kind of payload for it and prepare the right belts. So if you have, like in this case, light pillboxes, take the maximum amount of rockets, and also then take the universal belt, aka the stock belt, for the 20 millimeters. Then when you go for the target zone, go wide and go low. Use the spotting mechanic in your favor. Watch out for enemy random or rogue attackers, bombers, fighters, and try to avoid them. If you can't avoid them, at least try to go for the head-on. If you manage to get into the golden position of going into the combat area, try to not stay there for too long if it is still the beginning of the match, because the enemy will be aware once they lose tickets, once they see a lot of the a lot of their ground units vanish due to a single ground attacker. They're trying to look for you again, then relocate, maybe go behind enemy lines, try to stay away from the range of enemy anti-aircraft batteries, which also can give your position away. Now, in which kind of order do you use your ordnance? Well, you begin with the heaviest on the heaviest enemy target. Drop your bombs on either heavy pillboxes, or if they aren't there, use them on light pillboxes. That makes your plane more maneuverable. Then use the rockets, so you save yourself the 20 millimeters for if you then have to defend yourself from an enemy fighter or attacker. If you have a friendly fighter in the vicinity, that's both good and bad. If you already get engaged, use your maneuverability and stay low, and that needs a lot of experience, and then a friendly fighter can work wonders in distracting the enemy or shooting it down. If the enemy fighter is not aware of your position, but he's aware of the friendly fighter in your vicinity, he will engage the friendly fighter and then spot you. And eventually, when he gets outturned, he then tries to escape in your direction and at least get one kill. Keep that in mind. So it already doesn't sound all that great. If you engage then the ground units, always engage the ones that are blinking, the main objectives, the ones that cost the enemy tickets. Do not waste your time, positioning and ammunition on unimportant soft targets, such as AAA position artillery, howitzers, armored cars and or ships. That depends obviously on the map. And then with the 20 millimeters and the 50 cals, you still can engage light pillboxes and even light tanks. Medium tanks, as far as I can tell, are only efficiently be destroyed by rockets, especially from the side. German pilots with the 30mm HWAP belts know exactly what I'm talking about, because they still can engage the light and the medium tanks and the heavy tanks only from the side, not so much from the front. And then there are moving targets, and then they're also surrounded by trees on the roads where they're driving. So very often those attackers have a difficult time, and very often you can only engage one target per run. If you have enough time, make sure that you don't crash in trees and houses, and take yourself the necessary time to go back to altitude to then do a proper attack run. If you use rockets and you have rocket pylons on each wing, try to aim with one wing, with the rocket coming from one wing. That depends on the rocket or even the missile, and there are specific type and the distance. And I'm relatively experienced, and still I sometimes have my difficulties making those rockets work. Yes, I'm a bad pilot, I admit it. Deal with it. So for the rest of the match, I will now continue to farm the light pillboxes. But I am only able to do this, and it looks boring and it sounds boring, but I kept myself alive. And initially, when my engines were shot to pieces, so I had an oil leak, I went back to base. this time investment now pays off. Yes, there is a bug going on. All the enemies are dead for quite some minutes, for quite some time, for some minutes actually. And I know this doesn't really happen all that often. That's actually the first time that it happened. But very often there is one enemy bomber left and he just wants to sit it out. He just climbs to space, passive behavior, you name it. Or some enemy fighter that just stays on the runway and tries to lure the enemy fighters into the anti-aircraft batteries. You now have free reign. Take your time. Make sure every missile, every rocket is a hit. Try to get the maximum out of your attack ordnance, if you will. I know, again, it sounds so easy, it sounds so boring, but on top of this, this can help you to stock grind your ground attackers for RRB, to get them into a reasonable state, to not just get farmed by enemy SPA. I dislike attackers and planes in general in tank RB. That's my personal honest opinion. I still love them in RRB, but I have to freely admit that they are hilariously difficult to use at times, and Gaijin really should rework a lot of the maps, in particular Boulogne-sur-Mer and other maps such as Operation Husky. Sometimes there is nothing to do for either the ground attackers, the bombers, or both of them. You can use a fighter on every map. And this is a quick demonstration where you shoot the light pillboxes on the top of the roof. So the upper third of the pillbox is the necessary hitting area. There you can destroy them with a good burst of 50 cals, of 20 millimeters. Sometimes the shells seem to not really register, then break off your attack and just try it from a different angle. I've not quite figured out how it exactly works, so a little bit of research and a little bit of testing has to be done. Maybe it's a bit bugged, maybe this is working as intended. Let me know all your dirty tips and tricks in the comment section down below. And let's prepare for hopefully a good, definite guide with a bit more editing, more scenes, etc. So this is a first overlook. Again, concentrate on the main objectives. They also, like those light pillboxes, give significantly more RP and Silverline than only, destroying the soft targets, armored cars, AAA, RT howitzers. If the game is already decided and the enemy is about to get shot down, then yes, you can farm those artillery and howitzers and AAA positions if you don't have enough ammunition, for the simple fact that you then can go and get the Thunderer Award, which gives 5,000 silver lines extra for a non-premium account and 7,500 silver lines extra for a premium account. So despite my best efforts here with 24 targets being destroyed, I think all of them were light pillboxes, I only got 57,750 silver lines, and a good portion of that actually was down to that award, and not even 10,000 vehicle research points, and still I love it. I was easily first place with 7,817 score points. So I did my fair share of trying to win here the game, if not for the message of the enemy team having lost their last vehicle so late, either being bugged or I don't know, then I would safely made it with my ground pounding. And that was, I know it was a perfect run. This is far from what you see every match, but it is possible, and I still think that a lot of the tips and tricks that I gave you are valid. Try it out in a custom battle, ask your teammates, ask your clanmates, and share with them this video if you like. What are your tips and tricks? Let me know if this has helped you, and if you want to see a scene compilation with how to defend versus enemy fighters as a ground attacker, what kind of positions you should go on the various different maps, let me know in the comment section. That's it for me today, so thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Please give this video a like, but subscribe if you want to see more, and we'll see each other on the waves, on the battlefields, and in the skies of War Thunder.